Nice to see you, Mike. Thanks for joining us. Let's first talk about your interaction in this case, who you represent and why.
Sure, and thanks for having me on today, Diane. So right now, the U.S. Supreme Court just granted certiorari to hear this monumental case. And for this part of the case, I'm representing an individual who has been along in the appellate process this entire time. Her name is Ellen Isaac. She lost her son, Ryan, in November of 2019. He died of an overdose locked in her bathroom in her apartment, and she wasn't able to resuscitate him. So, like so many people in this case, the gravity is it's a very grave situation. During the bankruptcy, I represented other individuals, including the artist Nan Golden and activists from across the country who are really concerned about getting accountability in this case from the Sacklers. So we've been at this for years, and we'll continue to fight it. We'll be preparing a brief for Ellen.
What I find fascinating about this case is it's no easy, and this is the Solicitor General of the United States in some ways versus several attorneys general who had signed off on this deal. The problem right now seems to be that it is being decided in bankruptcy court. Is that to you the heart of the issue?
The heart of the issue, and like you said, the states attorneys generals have all signed on to this settlement, so they've consented to the settlement. What the Solicitor General is fighting for are those individuals who won't be able to go after the Sacklers, but don't consent to the settlement. So they're losing their property right to sue the Sacklers for the harms that they caused. And so that's really the issue, and it's been a longstanding issue that the U.S. Trustee's Office, which is part of the DOJ, has been fighting against.
So the deal that was struck, I believe, is about $6 billion. And one thing that I'm curious about, we are in a relatively conservative Supreme Court. I don't necessarily want to guess how they'll rule on this, but at the very least, this certainly delays some of those payments that could have been handed out relatively soon. Is that, for a higher cause worth the wait?
So I think, first of all, we're very sensitive to especially individuals getting paid out. We do want individuals to recuperate if they choose to. But the way that the deal was struck, there's no opt-out provision. So I get emails every day from people saying, we just want to go after the Sacklers. Whatever happens financially is secondary to us. They have more than a pecuniary interest. They're seeking accountability.
Which is interesting, which is a good point. This is a civil settlement. There have been no criminal charges against either, the former CEO or any other member of the Sackler family.
Yeah, and it's really a shame because the Purdue Pharma as a corporate entity pled guilty to 2 crimes a few years ago: bribery, kickbacks, and stealing money from the government through Medicare, Medicaid issues. But they did the government is fully aware who these individuals are that committed the crimes, but they haven't brought a single charge against an individual. And so, U.S. Attorney Selinger from New Jersey is the government attorney in charge of the criminal cases, but yet they've just sort of sat on their hands. So a lot of my clients are regularly protesting and advocating for him to move and indict, for example, Richard Sackler. Maura Healey, the former attorney general from the state of Massachusetts, said that she's seen the evidence. It's clear that there was illegal behavior, and then again, these corporate charges, clearly it wasn't a driverless machine. There were individuals committing those crimes.
Yeah, it's interesting because it does feel almost existential in some ways. Corporate leaders and, corporations are not people, but corporate leaders rarely are charged criminally for the behavior of their companies. We've seen it during financial crises. We've seen it, in this case in particular. How optimistic are you that in the absence of this settlement, that there would be some criminality or some degree of this playing out in criminal courts?
Yeah, I'm not very optimistic because, like I said, the information is available to government officials. They just haven't acted on it. And so whatever's going on behind the scenes that they're sitting on, they're just not doing anything. And in fact, like our position is that this bankruptcy itself is obfuscating the ability to go after criminal charges. Not to get too deep into the woods, but in the criminal pleas against the corporate entity, the company pled guilty to these crimes, but those crimes haven't been entered into court. And so Purdue has been existing while being a known criminal for years after the former administration announced the crimes and announced the settlement. It's really peculiar. And if you read that criminal information, it says that this settlement is contingent on a bankruptcy plan. So somehow they've tied the criminal side to the civil side. And that's very upsetting to my clients.